Hello.
Yo, give me a second here.
Cool.
Uh, Wait a minute. Yo, what up?
Hey, not much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. How's it
Perfect.
going?
It's going pretty well. I've been like looking at my camera, just at my hairline and thinking, where did this all go? It's
Well, I
fine.
have long hair, but you end up getting the what are those
Exactly.
called? Like golf greens or whatever they're known as.
Are you ready to do this?
Yeah, I was having like a little lighting problem because if I do this zoom with the light above me, it looks like I'm like
Oh
in a
yeah, the
TARDIS
the
or
white balance
something.
goes like whatever. Yeah,
So I've just got like an improvised light, but it's really, really bright. So
great.
I'm just like gonna try to bring it down a little bit
It's
here.
all good. This show will never ever be about the video quality. It's always about the discussion.
See, like if I sit here,
Oh
it makes me
God.
look like oh from the heavens. So I can't do that.
It's all good.
So we'll have to keep it low lighting. I hope that's cool with you.
Absolutely fine. So I'm going to say the words theme song, and then I splice in a theme song, and then I say the words. I kind of want to try this in French, actually. Uh, no, that's going to just be cringe. Hello and welcome to Halloween Don't Talk, Let's Talk, the show where I, Christopher Roy, reconnect with old friends. And today we have we're going to say borderline bohemian, Simon Albert-Lebrun.
Cheers.
Simon, welcome to the show.
Mm. Cheers. Hi, Chris. Good to talk to you. It's been like 10 years or something. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, go pushing the boundaries of 11, and yeah, it's just been quite some time. How are you doing today?
Good, man. I gotta say, I think it's really cool that you're doing this. It's almost like we never had like a 10-year reunion for high school or anything
Mhm.
like that. And in many ways, this has helped. I don't know, see where a few people have landed and what they're doing. So kudos to you. I think it's a
Thank
pretty
you.
cool idea.
I'm aiming to fill in some gaps, and I remember at the 50-year Cameron Heights reunion, there was like discussion of like having our 10-year IB cohort try to get together. Obviously, 2020 was not quite the year for that to happen.
No, yeah, unfortunately.
But this fills in that niche at least a little bit. So yeah, there was like the closest thing that I've done to a pre-interview so far, where we had a brief discussion for actually getting you onto the show. So you'd mentioned a few things, but for anybody who was not privy to that conversation, um, Simon, what have you been up to these last 10 years?
Uh,
You mentioned a bunch of basically globe trotting, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, I guess like a bit of an elevator pitch to give you the last 10 years of my life. So I went to Carleton for a year in journalism, then went to McGill for poli sci. Like I just transferred universities.
Mhm.
So finished up a poli sci degree there, then took like a year and a half off, went to the Middle East, did some stuff over there, and then came back to Montreal for a bit, and then moved to France, did law school in France, went to Boston a couple of years ago, and now I'm back in Paris.
Oh, wow.
And that's it. That's the elevator pitch of the last.
Perfect. um, I'm going to say this now because I'm going to forget to say it later. Your Zoom name is not your name, it is an organization of some sort. Care to
Shit.
speak on that at all?
Yeah, sorry. I thought I would zoom it, like it would go to my regular account.
Mhm.
This is my NGO account. I'm one of I have two jobs. One of them is working in an NGO, and this is the Zoom for the NGO. I guess I checked beforehand, and I was not signed in, so I don't know how Zoom just found its way back to that account, but here we are. So yeah, that's not my name. So it's Initiatives for Nuclear Disarmament. It's sort of like a non-proliferation NGO where we try to talk, publish articles and talk to like politicians or diplomats about moving forward with sort of the disarmament agenda. I'm not going to get too much into it. Sorry, just a little fly or something. But essentially, yeah, we just try to, relaunch, I guess, the multilateral process of disarmament, however easy that is.
Gotcha. Is that at all related to your travels? And in
No,
terms of like how you got into that particular
no,
NGO?
I got into that. So the travel thing was just, well, I think a lot of people these days like to travel.
Mhm.
I'm just one of them. And I kind of hopscotched between different universities because I really liked the university life. So it was always a good excuse to find some new way to stay in university. Uh, so yeah, so I ended up studying in France, and while I was studying here, I did like an internship, I guess, at this NGO a few years back. And when I came back from Boston, they needed somebody to run a few of their projects, so they hired me, and so I'm working that job and I'm teaching at the same time. So it's nice. I get to vary the pleasures of the two jobs and get to limit the amount of boring time I have to deal with them.
Very cool. What is it that you're teaching?
I teach common law, so I teach French students about like Anglo-Saxon law, so like Canadian law, British law, U.S. law. Basically, the difference is here it's all laws that are written in books. In common law countries, it's also the decisions of judges, right? Like in the U.S., you hear about the U.S. Supreme Court.
Mhm.
When it gets a decision, that is law, right? That's
Mhm.
not the case in France. Decisions are not force of law; they're just decisions.
I see.
Anyway, so that's what I teach. And, I teach it in English, of course, because it's not really interesting to learn about another country's laws, and it's not very useful if you don't actually speak the language that they're in, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, so that's those are the jobs. It's nice. I get it. I can't complain. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I guess that's the point.
Yep.
Uh,
I'm here to just pull at threads for the most part.
Yeah, no, I get that. You're doing a good job at it. I'm sort of coming apart. No, I was just saying, like, I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to teach under the current circumstances. I teach
Mhm.
via Zoom. Usually, I'd have like a classroom, and that's a lot more entertaining. I
Mhm.
gotta say. But the students have been really good with it. I mean, they're like in dire straits right now due to the COVID and everything, to such a degree that the president just like passed a law that now university students can get 3 meals a day for €1 each or something
Interesting.
like that, which is like, good, really
Yeah.
good. But anyway, they're good students. They're like third year law students and first year master students and like law master students. So they're pretty motivated, which is nice. I've had earlier years and they're not that into it. And so
Mhm.
it's a bit tougher to teach, but I've been given a good roster this year, so I can't complain.
Very nice. So how has the sort of adaptation to lecturing from Zoom been for you?
So it was relatively smooth. We started off with like 50% of the class was in class, like physically, and the other was at home. So I had like sort of this nice transition between the two where I got to understand how to do it and how to have my class run. There are a few advantages. One of them is it's really easy to know who's absent and who's not. You don't need to read the names off. You just have them right there. Also, if somebody participates, you have their name right
Mhm.
there with their camera. Whereas like when you're in class and you have 30 students and you have 6 different classes, so like 180 students, you don't remember everybody's name. So
Yeah.
you don't know how to, et cetera. So that's been kind of nice. And I guess, I don't know, there's nothing else that's really been great about teaching via Zoom. I live right next to the university, so I don't even
Oh wow.
have the whole travel, like
The
less
time
travel.
save. Yeah.
Yeah. But it has allowed me to like I just came back to Paris, but I've been living on the seaside of France for most of the last lockdown, and just working from there. So that's been, I can't complain. Again,
Yeah.
I have it really really good. So there you have it. But anyway, I don't know, man. How about you? Like we were talking a bit about your insurance job
Yep.
in Waterloo. What's the name of the company, by the way? Because I gotta ask my brother. It might be the same one.
It's Allianz.
Alil, do you mind? Is
Uh,
there any way you'd send that to me, like on Facebook, just the
yeah, for
official
sure.
spell?
But
But
yeah, it's basically like the Canadian branch of like a multinational German like financial asset management insurance company.
pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know if that's the one that my brother worked for, but he did work for an insurance company, like a big insurance company
Mhm.
in Waterloo. I'll have to ask anyway.
It's all good.
How long have you been working there
So
for?
I've been there since I graduated university in so I think my start date was like November 2016.
Hmm.
Starting off in the mailroom just to get a job at the time. And it's very much been like a sort of like work to live type of scenario.
Hmm.
Uh, there have been times where like there's a new project or initiative happening where I became like the subject matter for like the mailroom staff, and that experience has been more, I guess, enjoyable as like a workplace environment than like the regular sort of day to day tasks. Just because it was like a new shock to the system, and I got to work with a bunch of different people. The one thing that I learned kind of quickly is that I thrive most in a team environment, rather than just like here's your work, just get it done. Like the more I can connect with other people, the better.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mhm.
I don't really get to work in teams. Both my jobs are like very solo, do your thing.
Mhm.
So it's true that you have to you got to kick your ass to get things going. I feel like working in a team, you get that drive. Like everybody's working for a common purpose, I guess.
Mhm.
Mm.
Just building each other up, and sometimes you just kind of in my mind there are certain things like shared tasks where it's like, okay, I could just like strive to be better than someone else. I don't have like the biggest competitive drive, but sometimes I'll make things unnecessarily competitive. It's like, yeah, my numbers are higher.
That's from all the
That's
video games for
Yeah,
sure.
pretty much.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
not that competitive in most of the things I do. I don't know. I enjoy doing them. Like we were talking a bit about chess, and it's
mhm.
the kind of thing. It's a highly competitive game, right? But I just enjoy the movements, I guess. So I ended up playing against the computer like 90% of my games, and then if I'm in real life with somebody who's like, hey, I want to play chess, then I'll have fun playing chess against them. But
Mhm.
I don't really play others online, for example. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
get a score or anything like that.
Uh, so you mentioned that you were sort of one of the driving factors behind your international travels was that sort of university life. Um, I guess in your first year at Carleton was, I guess, the sort of seed of that. Um, how what was it about that first year that made you like want to do more of that?
Well, so I got into Carleton because I really wanted to do journalism at the time. So like, yeah, so I heard Carleton was a good university, and I went there for it. Turns out I loved every class I took except for the journalism class. Um, I feel like we spent the entire year learning about why journalism was a dead profession, and
Not the
like
greatest pitch for.
yeah, and like doing exercises to prove to us that like journalism was dying and showing us like, so this is how much we lost during the 2009 crisis, more proportionally than any other industry. Like, okay, great. Like, it was yeah, not it didn't inspire much confidence in the future of journalism. So I reoriented and I went to McGill. Carleton was basically a year of studying the stuff that I liked, not studying journalism and dropping out of journalism right at the end of the year, so it wasn't calculated in my average, and I could hopscotch to um, and just making really good friends, like lifelong friends. And so I don't know. Ottawa also it's a nice city. I feel like it's not my kind of city. It's a bit too bureaucratic, I guess is the term. Um, so I went to Montreal instead. Met up with Henry and Andrew and a bunch of other people from high school actually who had sort of taken like a what are they called, like a victory lap or a fifth year, and who ended up being at uni at the same time as me. So I was lucky because they were all in residence and I was just arriving. I had my
Yep.
own apartment, but I kind of got a second first year of university, which, you know, pretty
With
awesome.
some familiar faces too, to boot.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There was like nobody from CHCI at Carleton that I remember really. I don't know. Maybe there were one or two, but there were definitely a lot of them at McGill. So that was cool, and I've stayed friends and in contact with a few of them. Um, Actually, had Samuel Whitblad came
Oh
over
hell
here
yeah.
He came over here. We went to the seaside, the my fam where my family's from, and he spent like a couple of weeks. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, I don't know about the traveling. I guess yeah. After that, I was like addicted to the university vibe, and I finished McGill, and then I don't know. I guess thought I could make it out in the real world,
Mhm.
but it turned out the real world is pretty rough. Yeah, so I went to visit my family. They were living in Dubai at the time, and so I just went to stay with them for a little bit,
Gotcha.
and then went to like Jordan and Oman and like a bunch of places. Just traveling, I don't know. Middle East is really cool, especially that Gulf area. I don't know, is really nice. There's so many things like it's kind of crazy. You've got Dubai, that's just this like shining city in the middle of the
Mhm.
desert, and you drive 2 hours out to Oman, and you feel like you're in, you know, the Middle East, like proper, with
Yeah.
like you feel like you're more like in Morocco or I don't know. I'm not going to say Afghanistan because Oman is like well preserved and
Mhm.
everything, but definitely more of an Arab vibe. So I don't know. It was really cool to just move around there, do some volunteering. And then I kind of got fed up with it, went back to Montreal, tried to worked at Bank of Montreal for like a year, not a year, less than a year. The worst job ever.
Oh wow.
Call center, Bank of Montreal.
Oh yeah. Call center work is
Oh,
it's probably one of the
it was
the
brutal.
the most thankless jobs there are.
Dude, these last 10 years, that year in Montreal, that year and a half was just like the most hellish thing. I was just running around trying to find jobs to pay for rent and just like, oh God, I did, yeah, I did. You could, name it, and I've probably done it for at least a week or two. Uh, so yeah, so that was pretty rough, and it was at that point that I was like, okay, screw this. I gotta do something better here. So I moved to France, and well, essentially, I wanted to do law school,
Mhm.
and I realized Canada was like, whatever, 20 grand or something. US was just like, okay, not gonna happen. The UK was a bit more reasonable, but in France, it's like 200, 300 euros a year,
Oh wow.
and like it's a different setup. Like you go to law school right after high school. You don't have to do like a bachelor's before.
Mhm.
So seeing as I had a bachelor's, they were going to allow me to come in straight into like second year of law school. So I came into second year of law school having not studied in French for like ever, ever. And it was pretty rough. I think it's like 60% failure rate every
Oh wow.
year.
That's
Um,
that's
yeah,
decently steep.
yeah, it's pretty rough. But so I did law school, and that's why I came to Paris. And then I had the opportunity to go to Boston for a year to do an LLM, which is like a master's, I guess. And again, I paid French fees to go to Boston, which is like Boston is like 75 grand a
Yeah,
year.
that's a bit of a steal.
Yeah, I paid $200. And it was an extra. It was like another first year of university because it's just like an exchange, right? So
Mhm.
you just party for a year, I guess. So that was fun. And then now I'm back in Paris.
Wonderful.
There you go. That's a bit more of a broken elevator pitch. Just uh, that's about it.
uh, so I guess pushing forward to something a bit more recent. You mentioned that how your job has been affected by lockdown. How's your life outside of work been affected by the pandemic?
Well, I don't know. It's been so the pandemic when it started here last year. I basically just chilled in my apartment for like 2 months, basically.
Mhm.
And basically, yeah, I don't know. I was sort of on kind of like low battery modes, just hanging around, kicking about, not doing much. And then, so I mean, it was a nice time as well in a sense because it was sort of like a good time to, I guess, not, I don't want to say like meditate, but I guess spend some time, just thinking and just taking a step away from all this busy life. Because I got to say, Paris is like in regular times, it's wild. There's just
Mhm.
always shit going down everywhere. So It was nice to take a bit of a step back. And then the summer was normal. There was not really that much changed. But this second time around since the summer, basically I left Paris. I've been living more in Brittany, which is like the seaside
Mhm.
on the western coast there. I've been living there more than I have been living in Paris. My girlfriend has a family house there, so we just kind of chilled out over there. So I guess that's how it's been affected. I gotta say also, Paris without the bars and without the museums and without the, I don't
Anything
know,
outside for the
yeah,
most
the
part.
nightlife, everything, it kind of kills the city, you know?
Mhm.
So I love this place. I love being here. When in normal times, I love my apartment. Like it's like super chill. I don't know. It's like my space, you know?
Mhm.
So I do love to come back to it, but I'm not mad to leave it and to go chill by the side and go to the marketplace, you know, on Saturdays, and I don't know, go swimming on New Year's, even though it's like freezing or something like that. I don't know, do, you know, walk around. There's a lot more room to move your legs. So I don't know. I there's been a thing about I think it was during the first lockdown. There's like a sentence by I think it's Machiavelli that's like if you if there's something happening to you that you cannot change, that you can't do anything about, you have to want it. Right? So the idea is like, if you're in lockdown and you can't go outside and there's nothing you can do about it, then you have to be like, oh, dope, this is the situation I wanted to happen, and you have to find
Uh,
have like wanted that situation, you know. So I spent a lot of time, you know, reading a bunch of the books I hadn't read and I wanted to catch up on, watching old movies that I hadn't seen, like classics like The Shining or stuff like
mhm.
that. That, you know, The Shining, who hasn't seen The Shining? Well, I for lockdown, so you know, so I've been kind of trying to live with that mentality, I guess, when it comes to getting hit with lockdown.
Mhm.
I don't know,
It's a
blue.
it's a solid mentality to have. Just like sort of reframing what may be viewed as a problem by some people into something that is, like an opportunity of sorts.
Right. It's the kind of it's a more optimistic version of chaos is a ladder, you know, from was it Littlefinger?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Uh, so in our pre-interview, you also mentioned that that you had picked up some woodworking, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I guess
just like machine woodworking, are you like whittling things? What are we
so.
talking here?
Yeah, basically, I when I was during the end of the first lockdown, I went to Brittany, and my grandfather has a shed, and in it had a whole bunch of these old tools to woodwork. So I started with, you know, just all the manual stuff, and I started making. I made like a little penguin, and like I made a little this ring. I don't know if it's very
Cool.
visible,
Yeah.
an olive wood ring. It's just you know, it's just comfortable, whatever. And then yeah, I ended up getting quite into it, and my uncle lent me this little machine, which I ended up buying, which is like a Dremel. I don't know,
Mhm.
trademark. You know, you know, click on the sponsor link below. But I don't know what the name would be if other than the brand. So it's just this like, it looks like a little electric toothbrush almost, but it spins and you can kind of sand
Yeah.
different objects down. So I'm working on a chessboard right now, but or rather a chess set. It's
Mhm.
taken forever. You know, there are a lot of pieces, a lot of little angles to carve out. So yeah, but it's been fun. It definitely gives me something to do. It's a nice hobby. You know, it's not much, but it's honest work. I don't know, and the problem is in Paris, it's going to be a bit more difficult to do that because I do have a terrace, but I don't want to like, you know, rain sawdust on the
Yeah.
people beneath us. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I might buy like a little vacuum that just like immediately vacuums the sawdust as I go. But it's something that I love to do in the summer. Like in the summer, I would just sit in the garden in Brittany. Just, you know, you could do that for hours.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been a nice little hobby to pick up, I guess. It's pretty cheap too. Buy some wood, buy like three tools, and you can do some fun stuff.
And you had also mentioned that you were playing a bit of chess versus AI.
Yeah.
Uh, are you particularly like involved in your thinking process for chess, or is it just like we're gonna just play some like YOLO moves, and then like once we get past like the sort of opening beginning stage of the game, we'll think a bit harder.
So it depends what mood I'm in, I guess. There are times where I'm just like, hey, let's just see what we can do against this level computer or something, and I'll like, really get down into it and try to think about the different moves, each one before I do it, and try to have some kind of plans of attack or
Mhm.
whatever. But there are other times where I'm just like, I wanted to test something out, like I've been thinking about a certain sequence, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see what this turns into, and I'll just get like absolutely wrecked. You don't do that sequence, okay? So it really, yeah, I guess it depends on the mood. Also, it's something that I do on a sort of on my downtime. So if I'm like, I don't know, I guess it's the morning and I'm just having a slow time waking up, I'll watch like a chess video or something. I mentioned Agata, which is
Mhm.
like very famous, I guess now, chess commentator or whatever you want to call it, and otherwise just play on my phone and listen to music or something. So it's like a laid back thing. It's almost like, yeah, again, I don't like the word meditative, but it is in a sense.
It's a it's a relaxing activity.
Sure, but it's weird though, because then when as soon as you play with somebody, like face to face with like somebody like a friend or something, it immediately takes on like a whole other where there's a question almost of ego as a part of it. There's a thing like if you're better than them, like clearly better than them, and you're just tearing their board apart, even if they're like a really good friend, it kind of hurts,
Oh yeah.
I feel a little bad, or vice versa. I'm sure if that were to happen, but there's definitely like a more intense, I don't know, intense game at play when you
Yeah.
play chess in real life.
It's like the stakes at play are whether or not we're going to continue to be friends after this.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So you have to, I don't know. I play with my girlfriend sometimes, and she hasn't won yet, and so but she's getting better. She's getting better. She's good moves on me. So, but the day she'll win against me will be like a happy day. I'm not gonna let her win.
Of course not. You can't do
I don't know. Yeah. Even though I feel like it would make her very happy, I'm sure, but if
that.
I can't do it, it's not right. It's not
Yeah,
right.
it'll be it would be dishonest to do so. It must be an earned victory.
Right. Plus, she's pretty competitive, so.
It's all the sweeter that way.
Yep. But I gotta say, back to the whole traveling thing. I think that's probably the number one thing I miss right now is being
Did
able to just go
you,
anywhere.
yeah,
You know.
did you have any particular plans that got canceled because of COVID last year?
Mm, Not particularly. I mean, I had in mind to go to like France is the nice thing about Europe is there are no borders and you can just
Mhm.
hop on a train and in a few hours you're anywhere. Um, I think there was a bit of a plan to like meet up again with Sam Whiplad. There was a bit of a plan to I wanted to go east, maybe even we wanted to go to Morocco recently, but
Ooh,
again that was made impossible.
yeah.
But there was nothing in like nothing in particular. I had a cousin. He had like he'd been like saving up, etc. He was going for a trip around the world on a sailboat, where he's working as part of the crew, and
Ooh.
that would go down all the way to like Antarctica. And he was like super psyched, and he quit his job, and he left
Oh
England
no.
back to France, and then it hit, and he got stuck at his parents' place, and it's just, oh man, brutal.
Unlucky.
Yeah, really unlucky. So, you know,
So as a man who has been about the globe, have you been able to steadily like sort of maintain relationships with the people from various nations, or has it just kind of been like because of distance, impairing things somewhat, just like a focus on those that are closest to you?
that's a good question. I mean, it depends on the country. It depends on the time that I spent there, like how much time I spent there. Um, some friends have sort of carried through, uh, beyond, like, in a sense, it was like, oh, you live there now, hey, I'll come visit, or like, and vice versa, you know,
Mhm.
or hey, we're like, you know, both in different countries, but right in the middle of us, there's this other country we could go visit together. So I've managed to stay in contact. I've made some decent efforts actually to stay in contact with some of the people from Cameron Heights, like William McLeish, Connor Paddock. I came back to KW actually. What was it a few years ago? My little brother lives in Toronto,
Mhm.
and my older brother lives in BC. So I go back every once in a while,
I
and
see.
yeah, I still get to hang out with some of them. I saw Duncan last time I came over. Yeah, I don't know, a bunch of those guys. I haven't seen John Martin in like God knows how long. But it'd be fun. I was actually, I mean, I would have been happy to do some kind of a 10-year reunion, see where, you know, where everybody's at. High school seems like those days were so, those memories are still so vivid. You know,
Mhm.
it was like 10 years ago.
Some real formative years in that school.
Oh yeah, fucking CHCI. Oh man. Yeah, yeah, a bunch of shenanigans. I was remembering, like, I don't know, all the, and it's fun to also meet up with friends from Cameron Heights, because we'll just sit down and we'll go through all the different situations we'd gone into when and that we hadn't talked about or we didn't really iron out, but 10 years later, so you can say whatever you didn't say at the time or whatever,
Mhm.
and no consequences, obviously, you're just dumb teenagers.
Oh yeah.
But you know, and there's so much cringe as well. Like, think about a bunch of the stuff that I said or did, and I'm just like, oh, you know, one of those walking down the street. Oh, I remember I did that in high school. You just want to jump in front of a bus or something, you know?
It was funny at the time. What can be said?
Sure, sure. I think it, or at least we tried to have as much fun as we could.
Mhm.
But um, I don't know. I lived so far away too. I was in Cambridge, right?
Mhm.
Like not like that's a half more than a half an hour bus ride every morning on the city transit, right? Ainsley Street Terminal. But a lot has changed. So much has changed. There's
Oh
like
yeah, we
a
have like actual infrastructure for public transport now. It's pretty great.
yeah, that's crazy. Oh, yeah, I cannot believe that. I remember hearing about light rail construction so long ago and being like, oh, it's gonna take like 10 years to do. We'll never
Mhm.
see this. And here we are 10 years later, and we've seen the end of it now.
Yeah.
So I gotta go back. I gotta go back and check it out. It was just, I think it was just finishing up when I last time I came over. I'm trying to think when that was. I think it may have been like yeah, 2 3 years ago. Yeah, because I lived in Montreal over the summer 2 3 years ago before moving to Boston. So I must have gone down at that time. So, anyways, 3 years ago it was done, right? The rail
Yeah, I want to say like either 2018 or 2019 is when it finished. It was like the
close. I think
summer.
they were, yeah, they were running empty ones.
Yeah,
Empty
just to
ones.
make sure that they were A, functional, and B, people weren't gonna just collide with them, and like giving the public time to adapt. Now, naturally, the public didn't adapt particularly well, and there were accidents all the goddamn time, but it's gotten better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I want to do it. I want to go back and just take that, you know, take that, be
Just
like, oh,
all the way from Fairview to Conestoga, just
yeah, just
ride the
see,
loop.
let it be. You know, the day that we were a little angry as, what is it, Cambridgians? I don't know what the name is, because Cambridge, as being part of the Tri City, ended up paying for part of that rail,
Mhm.
and the rail doesn't make it to Cambridge.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
that's a air quotes phase two adaptation. So I have no idea what the progress is on that at the time, but I saw some plans.
everybody knew what the progress was when it was in Kitchener
Oh
Waterloo.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, we deal with that later.
But yeah,
Came.
the and like the food culture in the region has like expanded considerably in the last while as well. So if you ever do come back, we can definitely hit up some spots.
Mhm. Sounds good. With pleasure. I don't know who else. Who else have I seen from high school? I saw Julia in Paris
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
5 years.
she's done quite a bit of traveling. I don't actively. message her that often, but every time I do, there's like a solid conversation that happens, and yeah, she's she's done quite a bit of traveling herself.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I was living in the sixth at the time. Tara Campbell was living in Paris for a while as well. We
Hmm.
used to get a bit. She's moved back now to Canada, I believe. I saw Eugenia. Trying to think who else I've seen in the last 10 years. Jeez. Yeah, Will, Connor, I mentioned Sam. Anyway, I feel like I saw Fitsum. I saw Fitsum a little while back. I went to his house, I believe.
Oh,
Uh, we were at a house party. That was when my brother got married, which was
I
like
see.
that was like 3 years ago or something, 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't know. That was fun. It was fun. It was good to see Fitsum again. He and I used to be we would get up to no good back in the with a bunch of shenanigans, and it's nice to see where he is now. He looks like he's in a really great place. So
Oh yeah,
kudos.
he's out here doing some fantastic work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see the updates on Facebook, and I'm like, I know that guy. We used to get up to no good.
I have the exact same way, except without the sort of shared history.
Remember, we used to go to play pool, like I think it was every Friday at the Hooters, and somehow get drinks, even though we were way underage. So that was like such an adult, goddamn.
Oh no.
But it's one of those things, like the rush disappeared of we got booze, boys. Like you couldn't buy it back in the day.
Yeah.
Now you just fucking buy it every
it,
store.
it's lost a little bit of its luster. Now that's not this law violating act.
Yeah, I feel like in Canada that kind of happened with weed as well, where like weed was kind of this, well, it was illegal.
Mhm.
So smoking it, you were kind of this badass kind
Yeah.
of immediately this kind of vibe to it. But now that it's legal, I feel like, fucking 30-year-old engineers are just popping down at their local weed
And now just
store.
kind of whatever. It's like, yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I feel like everybody's taking it easy. So it has lost a bit of its edge, weed.
Mhm.
France is weird for that. It's the country that punishes it. Has the strongest restrictions on it,
Really?
basically, in Europe, and yet we're like the second biggest smokers after Spain. So it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, hopefully one day, it's legalized everywhere. I'm not going to get into that too much, but I think it's silly that it isn't. And it's one of the things that's lovely about Canada,
Mhm.
the legality. Although Boston, it was pretty cool as well. It's kind of crazy in the U.S. how they can't. I mean, in certain states, they can't store the money that they make from the weed inside regular banks because there's a federal tax on it, and you can't pay federal tax because it's a illegal substance at the federal level or something like
Did
that.
not know about that.
Yeah, so like the dispensary in Massachusetts in Boston was in an old bank, and they had it looked like a Dillinger like 1930s bank with the little green lights and everything, and the giant vault, and they kept all of their cash in the vault, and there were always like armed security. There were always two cop cars outside. Like, I mean, it would be the perfect target, right?
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
you can't put the profits you make from cannabis sales into the bank, which is
That's so weird.
yeah, like they literally, if you want to pay with your card, they have a system so you swipe and it essentially goes straight to an ATM that they have with a bunch of cash in it, and the money comes out and they take the money and they put it in the bank, so in their own little cell. It's wild, but Canada seems to have found the right way to go about it. I don't know.
uh, so with your experience in law and like with the quirk you just mentioned, are there any other particular like quirks about law or the legal system or the judicial system that stick out in your mind?
Oh, like which one? Like French, Canadian, European?
Anywhere.
Um, I don't know. There's so much that just weird. weird laws or weird coincidences or that sort of thing. Um, I mean, I do find it strange. I guess that's a bit of the French in me that you still need to get the Queen's approval in Canada to do certain things in Parliament. Like if you want to prorogue Parliament, like put Parliament on pause, you have to ask the Queen, and she'll rubber stamp it. But like, okay, you still have to ask this decrepit old woman her opinion on the matter. Like, okay, come on, guys. I don't know. There's a few weird things, I guess, with common law where you see this either this strong attachment to the monarchy or this strong rebuke, like the U.S., which is like starts off with freedom of religion, and then second one straight away, right to have weapons
Yeah.
and militias, and mess up anybody that tries to become a tyrant. I don't know, the U.S. Okay, I can think of a few. I mean, random quirks if you want. One of them, like Washington D.C., so that's not a state,
Correct.
right?
Not a
And
state yet.
uh,
There's some plans, hopefully, that some
yeah,
people are putting forward, but for the time being.
it's a bit weird then, because they have like their whole own system of representation within DC with regards to like congresswomen and congressmen actually being the representatives for DC. But that also means that things like the 14th Amendment, which is the one that basically says all people are equal, and please you know stop slavery and all that stuff,
Mhm.
and stop the segregation of African Americans. The 14th Amendment applies only to the states. It literally
Oh,
says all states shall. And so there's like a few problems, because in the 14th Amendment, you have due process.
mhm.
And it's from due process that you get things like the right to privacy, the right to have an abortion, gay marriage, like all the new rights that have come out of
Mhm.
that. So technically, none of that applies to Washington D.C. Although, of course, the courts found some kind of, go in order to say, yeah, sure, it applies. But they essentially ripped off a piece of like another amendment, the Fifth Amendment, which is about criminal law, and there's the words due process. So they're like, it's the same due process as the amendment. So that sticks, because the Fifth does apply to Washington D.C. The U.S. is weird. I mean, we're talking about weed and prohibition, essentially,
Mhm.
of cannabis in Canada or in France now. It was in their constitution. It was in
Was
their
it?
freaking constitution that alcohol was illegal, right? Like in the 1930s and everything, the whole prohibition. That was the what is it, the 19th Amendment or something like that,
Hmm.
and or the 21st. I forget now on the moment. A beer
Somewhere in
and
there.
others a little later. I'm trying to find it now, but anyway, yeah, it was a constitutional amendment. So at the same level as they had a right to freedom of religion, they had a restriction on alcohol. The U.S. is so bizarre, so weird the way they do things. Anyway,
Definitely a peculiar nation.
yeah, I'm trying to think of other peculiarities. I guess the vice presidency is a weird position, right? Like they're part of the executive branch, but they're also part of the legislative branch, because
Mhm.
like Kamala Harris is voting in the Senate right now.
Yeah, for
She's
tiebreakers.
Yeah, she's the tiebreaker. So she has a foot in both the executive and the legislative branch. I don't know. That's like a very
Yeah,
strange thing.
kind of messes up the whole checks and balances system that
Yeah,
I
if you
believe is
really
the
want.
foundation for their three branches.
Yeah. If
They
the
should
vice president wanted to, I guess that's kind of what Cheney did. Kind of
mhm.
just made his own branch of government in a way.
They should put more emphasis on the vice part. Just get out there, get absolutely blitzed, just
Yeah.
binge alcohol. The vice president.
That would be pretty cool, actually. I would be down. Sign me up for vice president. The position of the hedon. You're just the hedonist in government, the hedonist in chief. Here's my
Nice.
vice president. He takes care of all the casinos. He takes care of all the. Sounds good to me.
So Simon, what is something that people who know you would be surprised to find out about you today?
Mm,
Or do you think you've lived life pretty much, I guess, somewhat expectantly to what other people may have characterized you?
I feel like considering all the stereotypes and cliches I was thrown at when I was in CHCI, I pretty much lived up to most of the stereotypes. I mean, I'm like still,
You did wind up in Paris, so
yeah, yeah,
there's only so many branches off of that.
quote unquote super French. I don't know. I guess I lived up to most of those expectations. If it's living up to them or down to them, I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I definitely lived up to a few of them. Something about me that would surprise others. I guess that I have a girlfriend. I get quite angry, I think, at most girls. I couldn't get my head around them back at CHCI. So I was kind of I was a bit of a jerk, I think, with girls. I think I had a rule with like I can't date a girl for more than 2 months, and I believe I broke up with a girl because of that.
Jesus.
Rule. Uh, with Shadi Garris, if you remember Shadi.
Vaguely, yeah.
I didn't ask him to do this anyway, and it made the breakup a lot more difficult. But he literally stood maybe 2, 3 meters behind the girl as I was breaking up with her, and he took an empty trash can and he was doing this in the dump
What the fuck?
as I'm looking at the girl, and I'm trying not to laugh, and I feel cruel and trying not to laugh at the same time. Anyway, so yeah, so I feel like I've come a long way in that sense.
You're reformed.
Yeah, yeah, I'm reformed. I'm reformed. I don't know.
How did you meet your current girlfriend?
With my girlfriend. So actually, we were working in the NGO together, the one that this Zoom account is using. But anyway, we were interns together like 4 years ago or something, and just met once, like had a meal once with the head of the NGO, and then a couple of years ago there was like another sort of a youth conference thing, more like a just like come over to this guy's house who runs the NGO and have some drinks and cheese and let's talk. Very very French again, meeting
It's
all.
a good business style.
And then I guess we just ended up meeting up at a few of these conferences and things. And then we were sent to Switzerland together on to go to this conference about peace. I guess peace. And we ended up so we went to this conference together, and I guess it started up there. That was pretty cool. I guess Switzerland, expensive but nice.
Cool.
That should be their tourist slogan. Expensive, but nice. So yeah, that's how we met. And turns out she's from like the same place as my mother's side of the family, which is from the west coast of France. And yeah, we've been hanging out ever since. It works pretty well, so I'm not gonna change things. It's nice.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, yeah, she's pretty cool. I gotta say. And I guess we've had like similar pasts because she's done a lot of traveling as well. More on the other side of the hemisphere. She's more been to like Brazil and Australia, and I've been more to the Nordic countries. I guess I don't know. I think she's probably traveled more than I have, but very different styles. And more of the, I guess, backpack hitchhike kind of travel. She's more of the well, let's get a hotel kind of travel,
Yeah,
which is
like resort life. Just be pampered for a week or so.
yeah. We did a little. We crossed France this summer to go from the sea to the mountains, and then to this like place in the south of France. But so it was lovely. We got to go into all these different Airbnbs and hotels and whatnot. I had never really traveled like that before, which was nice. I'm more of a go to hostels
Yeah, yeah.
and I guess
Cost effective traveling. For
sure,
sure.
yeah. Go to friends' houses, go to hostels, go camping if you want to, that sort of thing. But it's nice as well, it adds a certain amount of comfort.
Character. Oh, gotcha.
No, they're doing it her way. It adds a certain
Oh,
amount.
gotcha.
I'm not gonna being the complete, hedon again that word, but being the complete hedon that I am. I can't complain when I'm waking up in a hotel rather than like a 8-person dorm room. in this, the underground of some Amsterdam, Amsterdam hostel. Anyway.
Did you have any other questions for me, or did you have anything that you wanted to share coming into this?
Yeah, I had a question for you. This may be a bit more of a straightforward one, I guess. I've been playing a lot of Total War recently, but it's like Rome Total War, and I
Yep.
have not touched any of the other games in that saga. Knowing
Affinity.
your wisdom and expertise in this matter, I don't know if you would have any recommendations into maybe other games even that are sort of similar to that, because it's been woodworking's been fun. I still write a bit, and now I've been kind of addicted to this Rome Total War kind of
Mhm.
strategy game.
Um, I think everything in the sort of Total War series has been like pretty well received critically. Uh, the sort of solo strategy game is not one that I've delved into particularly like too much. So unfortunately, I can't advise much further than that. I've seen a bunch of friends play like Attila or whatever. So give that a shot, I guess.
Okay. And then, okay, follow-up question then.
Sure.
Do you have any recommendations for games that you have played and that you really liked that I could operate on a like Windows Surface? Because
Gotcha.
I'm so behind on video games, dude. Like so in high school, like Halo, and I even went to a LAN party at Marco Panovnik's
Yep.
once. Uh, I really liked video games back then, and I didn't touch it for for so long, and now I'm trying to get back into it because it's a great
Mhm.
pastime. So if you have any recommendations that I could run on a Windows Surface.
Gotcha. So thinking about like the technical limitations, I I myself am a big fan of like sort of like any sort of card-based deck building type of like rogue-like game. So there's a few in that genre. Like Slay the Spire is one that stands out to me, as well as Griftlands and Monster Train. Um, those three should lend themselves well to like your uh, I guess penchant for strategic thinking. Um, I have a friend who played World of Warcraft on a Surface for a while, but I wouldn't recommend that in any way for anybody at this point. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if Hades is going to run on a Surface, but if that does indeed work, then I would absolutely suggest playing Hades. Probably like my standout game of 2020.
Okay,
Um, yeah,
cool. I will look into it.
perfect.
Very much looking forward to it. I hope I can run it. I've been able to run some pretty big games on this. Like, is it Europa Universalis or whatever
Mhm.
it is? That's a pretty big game, I
Oh
think,
yeah,
and it ran totally smoothly. So
oh yeah. I believe in that little. I believe in the Surface. It's surprisingly powerful.
yeah, this is my second one. The first one just inexplicably died on me, and the hard drive apparently was just eating itself from the inside. So
Mm.
that's a problem. But it worked fine up until the very moment where it didn't. And like, I was playing a YouTube video and it got stuck on one note. So it was just like all of a sudden it's like boo, like just
Oh yeah,
really
yeah.
loud.
I
And
I have a laptop that succumbed to the same sort of fate.
yeah,
It
and then I
is
had
not
to
pleasant to hear.
shut down, and you're just like my baby, please don't die, and you run to the tech store like save it, screaming down the street. They managed to save most of my files, so that was cool, but the rest of it had to be basically torn apart for pieces. And I went to the Windows store and I was like, oh, it's Valentine's Day, so we're having a special on computers. I'm like, who the hell is buying a $600 computer for their girlfriend on Valentine's Day
No,
or
no, no.
their
You don't understand. This for the people who don't have girlfriends. They needed a break today, so we're giving
fair
it to them.
fair point. I remember this was at the time that Apex Legends had just recently come out,
Mm.
and boy was that getting a lot of attention. But man, that's a really cool game. One of my roommates played that, and it felt so, I don't know, epic. And like every game, I felt like it was really, I could watch that guy play for hours, just like munching on popcorn and
Oh
drinking
yeah.
beer.
The sort of battle royale genre, outside of like I guess the sort of intricacies of like inventory management, when you boil it down, it's just like, okay, it's very easy to follow as a spectator, which is like, okay, dude kills other people and strives to be the last person standing.
Mm.
Easy watching. And then you watch like competitive Fortnite or something, and it's like, okay, this is like they're constructing this tower, and I don't understand how.
Yeah, they're like spinning in every direction and just like build. I
Just
think what's important
bonkers
is
movement.
like maybe build a little bit and then shoot each other, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna build the equivalent of the Empire State Building in like 2.5 seconds, and we'll be at the top shooting at each other until we reach the sky. Basically,
Pretty much.
it's a wild game. I never could get back into the shooter game. I've never been. I played Halo when I was in high school, and I loved it. And I feel like I was pretty decent in Halo 2.
Mhm.
And then Halo 3 came out. I felt like it was really bulky, and the way that you moved around felt like you weren't a person anymore. It's like you're a machine. It's like, there's no more sounds of steps. Even I think it was just, I don't know. And I could never get back into a shooter. So maybe one day I'll find a shooter that I like. I tried Apex Legends, and
Mhm.
I just had fun just flying around or zip lining around with the robot
Oh
guy.
yeah, the was it Pathfinder?
Yeah, I
Something along
think,
those lines. Yeah.
but I was never very good.
Yeah.
Uh,
The battle royale shooter genre is one that I've like tried a couple times, but I always just feel like my aim is not there quite in the same way that is for like a more tactical shooter like Valorant or Counter-Strike, where it's just like there's so many more opponents to deal with that I will just get caught by someone with my back turned to them as like, okay, well now I'm just done. And then I gotta go to the next one. It's a harder loss.
Definitely, definitely. You know, I think I remember actually playing Counter Strike against you and a bunch of the people at
At that
this
LAN at Marcos
Marco.
probably. Yeah.
And I had never played, and I was just terrible. I was so awful. At every game you guys played, I was just StarCraft. I was so awful. I think I got like one killing spree with a shotgun one time. I was pretty proud.
Oh hell yeah.
But I remember in Counter Strike running over and there was like a mouse trap, and I thought it was just part of the decor.
Oh yeah.
Killed
Just
me,
like
and I
one
was
of
like,
those custom maps that took place in like a kitchen.
yeah. And I was like, oh, what? That it killed me or something? And yeah,
Yeah.
well, it is a mouse trap.
Yeah,
I feel
man.
like that's pretty obvious. And I was just like, shut up.
I actually moved in with Marco and his brother last year, and one thing that I kind of wanted to do, but did not get enough. There was like, first of all, not enough space, and also just like not enough of a quorum to agree to do it. But like to just like have a sort of housewarming land. But yeah, gaming is one of those things that as we've gotten older, it's fallen out of favor for a lot of people. They have more like some people have more sort of career oriented pastimes where they're just gonna like read up and do things that'll maybe like advance their career or just like instill in them like a good base of knowledge. And then there's guys like me who still just kind of avidly play uh, the same games that they've been playing for the last 5 or 10 years or whatever.
You know what
It's
though?
all good.
I feel like in like whatever 60 years when we're all in like retirement homes playing video games, people like you are gonna like rule
Oh yeah,
the
that's the dream. To be in a retirement home, there's like a GameCube that's still functioning somehow, and we're all just gathered around playing Melee.
Dude, I definitely feel like that's because are you kidding me? If I'm 80 and they put me in a retirement home, I'll just be like, all right, just set me up with a dope ass computer, put me on whatever every version of Total War, and I'll just do that for 10 years. Wait for the end while I'm
I,
still leading these armies in my brain,
I want to see like the sort of like young entrepreneur retirement home, the people who like got VC money and decided, okay, I don't need to work anymore, just
Hmm.
them all together, in the sort of new age of retirement home.
That sounds pretty awesome to me,
Yeah.
man. It sounds like a hell of a lot better than retirement home as they are, which is essentially old people with the pastimes that they had when they were kids, which was watching daylight TV and playing like checkerboards. Like that's yeah, or knitting. Woo, knitting. We're gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna go back into my whole childhood vibes. Okay, get me Xbox, Xbox Two, get me Halo, Halo,
Exactly.
get me SSX, SSX Tricky, SSX Three, all the FIFAs. I don't care. They're all the same, but I want to play with different players. So give me all the FIFAs. Um, I feel like it's gonna be heaven, man. Old age, I can't wait.
Yeah. It's gonna. Where do you think you would like to spend your retirement years?
Oof, the moon, I think. The moon and a crater on the moon,
Hell yeah.
back down at Earth, and using like a little one of those big green lasers to just like laser point people and just mess with them. So yeah, so either the moon, some underwater base would be pretty cool.
Listen, with the way the oceans are rising, everywhere's going to be an underwater base.
That's right. That's right. Who knows? Maybe we'll find some water on the moon, and I can have an underwater base on the moon.
the
My dream will be.
the Venn diagram.
Yeah. We'll have to fight off some moon bears. I think you were the one to introduce like our entire grade to picnic face, right?
I definitely feel like I was a driving force for sure.
For
I
sure.
may not be in the very
For me,
start, but definitely
yeah, like
close
Christopher
association.
Walken.
I actually saw, I think it was like Kyle Dooley of Picnic Face doing like a sketch show in Toronto one time, and then
Cool.
that got segued into hypnosis improv with Colin Mockery, which is just like the wildest thing that I could have ever thought of, and then also saw in person.
Man, that's one thing at fucking comedy clubs and stuff. That's I used to go. There's a few spots in Paris actually with good comedy stand-up shows. And this summer I met a friend that I made a friend, I guess, who runs one of these stand-up comedian like theaters in Paris. And I was like, oh, it's so awesome! I'm gonna go to like so many of these free shows and stuff. And unfortunately, well,
Yeah, the touring has
meeting.
been delayed.
All right. Yeah. Did you see that Netflix movie or rather series? I think it's like Huge in France or something like that.
I have not.
Or like big in France. It's got like Jerry Seinfeld and a bunch of American comedians. But the idea is like it's about a French comic who's very famous in France, but is completely unknown in the U.S. And so he comes to the U.S. and he starts meeting people, and every time he's like, "Oh, you know who I am? No, oh, I'm very big in France, right?" Justify himself. So it's a decent series. It's a decent series. If you like stand up, you like Seinfeld, I'd say give it a shot.
I'll definitely look into it. Seinfeld actually did a show in Kitchener a few years back.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
it was very much like old man kind of yells at cloud kind of material.
Okay.
Um, it didn't quite hit for me, but still got some solid laughs out of it.
It's Jerry Seinfeld, man. I would just look at him. Just
Just
all
stand there and awe.
all shucks. Man, one thing I miss about Kitchener Waterloo, and I want to go back to like every time I eat wings, is wings up.
Mm,
My mouth is
solid spot.
literally watering up right now and having said the words wings up. I'm not kidding. Extra saliva in my mouth right now. Oh my god, that place, man.
It's Super Bowl tomorrow, I think. So maybe I'll put an order in your honor.
Oh shit, you're right. It is Super Bowl tomorrow. Oh man, what? I'm on a Super Bowl party, man. Oh damn straight. I don't even know who's boy. I
Me
have
neither. I think it's like Tampa Bay and some other team that doesn't have Tom Brady on it that are probably going to lose.
yeah, I was so into it when it was the Patriots when I was in Boston. Like I was like, oh,
Oh
I
yeah,
was
that's you gotta.
it was dope. But yeah, this back in France, it's been a little rough. When I came here during law school, I used to follow the Cowboys. Still, I've always been a fan of Dallas Cowboys. Go
Mhm.
figure. I just I remember arriving in Canada and somebody's like, "Oh, you like football?" I'm like, "No, I guess." They're like, "Okay, what's your favorite team?" I'm like, "What's the most American football team there is?" I guess the Cowboys. I'm like, "Okay, Cowboys it is then." But I'm glad they got rid of Tony Romo. That guy was awful.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's my spiel on American football. I never played.
Not American football, the sport, not the band.
Well, I watch a lot of soccer here. I don't know if that's if you guys watch.
The other kind of football.
PSG is playing tomorrow against Marseille, so that's supposed to be a big game as well. So, but a Super Bowl. What time is Super Bowl at?
I have no clue. I want to say like 3 p.m., but it could just as easily be like 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Yeah, because that's one of the bummers about being in Europe. I have to miss out on all the fun stuff, like when the U.S. elections were on, like the results were at like fucking 4 a.m. or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Same thing with all the MMA. If I want to watch like any MMA fights, I have to stay up till like 4 a.m. So I can get to watch their specials in Vegas or whatever.
Otherwise, you have to like dodge spoilers as soon as you wake up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have to stay away from Reddit. Oh man.
So Simon, if you were to give a TED talk on any particular topic that you find interesting or have like some base of knowledge in, what would that be?
Probably be about genocide. I know that sounds a little off, but I wrote, so I did an LLM, which is like a master's of law at Boston, and that's what I basically focused on, the crime of genocide, which is, I think it's a fascinating topic. It's like there's a whole bunch of history, of course, but there's also, cultural issues there. There are legal issues, political issues, global issues. Like it seems like it touches so much. And it sort of illustrates how international law works, and because it's supposed to be the crime of crimes, right? Like the international crime, the worst international crime. So the idea is, if somebody is committing it, how is the world order reacting to this crime of crimes being committed? And you see every institution has their own way of dealing with it. Every politician has their own way of dealing with it. Sometimes not in a very efficient way, shall we say? But I don't know. I think it's a fascinating topic, and I think that's probably what I would do it on. As depressing as that topic is, I considered doing a PhD on it, but again, I thought, okay, so I'm going to spend like 4 years writing this thing, and then I'm going to be spending 4 years studying about massacres, and
yeah, that might have some that might have some impact on the old psyche.
Yeah. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna make sure my apartment is chill first and have a nice living situation. Make sure I'm financially comfortable. I have a good social circle, and then we'll think about writing a PhD on genocide.
Wow.
But it is. I think it's a fascinating topic, and anyway, I would talk a lot about the Nuremberg trials and how genocide was not in the Nuremberg trials, and how no Nazi was ever convicted of genocide in the Nuremberg tribunals. So like weird, stuff like that. But I personally find fascinating.
And even in the present day, like there are several sort of active genocides that are happening internationally.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of my points I would make, is that one of the big issues with genocide is that because the definition is so blurry, shall we say, it kind of reduces the amount of impact that the crime, calling it out as a crime, can have. By that I mean that if you start calling everything a genocide, then of course it loses a bit of its gravitas, or whatever you call it. And of course, I'm not saying that the ongoing genocides are not genocides, but I'm saying the issue is that the definition of genocide needs to be kind of narrowed. It needs to be narrowed if you want to actually make it have any purpose, because as it stands, it reaches too wide, and we're starting to talk about like different cultural genocides, and I'm not saying that those aren't bad things, but there's a difference between removing churches or something like that in your country
And removing people.
which is bad. But compare that to systematically eliminating all of the men of a certain age in a particular ethnicity of a province so that they could never reproduce ever again, and raping all the women systematically so that their children are technically of your religion. See, if you do that, like that for me should be, okay, here, tick, 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 genocide, let's move in. But if you start saying everything is a genocide, then it loses that power. So it's I don't know. It's like the opposite of Voldemort. You should say it to make it mean power. So don't say it all the time to try and contest it. Anyway, I don't know. So that's my answer. I would give a talk on genocide.
In the viewpoint of like international law, what do you view as like the course of action for lack of a better term, punish those who commit acts of genocide?
So I guess the issue with that is genocide is committed by sometimes people who have been either misled or have been forced into that situation, right? This was notably the case in Rwanda, where you would have certain people be like, hey, don't kill me, I'm a Hutu. And they're like, oh, you're a Hutu? Okay, well then come with us and kill this Tutsi right in front of us, right? And if you don't do that, we'll kill all of your family. Okay, well, does the person who kills in order to save his family, is that considered one of the actors of the genocide? How far do you need to go back to talk about different commanders? So it's tough to say. It's true that the issue that we have is not so much actually with regards to repression. We are very good at once the whole conflict has sizzled down and it's like 15 years later and these guys have been in jail for all that time, we bring them out and there are these old guys with handcuffs and we say, you have committed genocide and you are bad. Okay, we're putting you in jail, or back in the day, we're killing you, right? We're putting you to death. But the issue, I wouldn't say that's so much of an issue, because in any case, we're just either going to put them in jail or in certain cases, firing squad or that sort of thing. But if you committed a genocide, I'm not going to be the one to get in between 10 people with guns and you. That's just my personal take on it. If there's been a trial and everything, of course.
Of course.
But I think the bigger issue, and this is the one that, if you look at the convention, it's the Convention on the Prevention and Repression of Genocide. And the issue is we've never been able to prevent a genocide because of how complicated the definition is. And every time, even like in Rwanda, Clinton and Madeleine Albright, when they looked at the situation, their excuse was, well, we're not sure if it really counts as a genocide. It could be categorized as such. We're not 100%. No, we're not going to go in. Okay. And Clinton and Albright both say that's the biggest regret of the presidency and the administration, et cetera. And it's what justified their intervention into Serbia later on. But it is one of the big issues is that, we have so much trouble getting somebody to just point it out with a finger and say, this is genocide. It's going on. Okay, now international law, do your
Intervene,
thing.
do something.
Right? Let's go to the Security Council, tell people, let's move in. If the Security Council vetoes it, let's go to the General Assembly. Let's get everybody to move into it. And so actually that was sort of the point of one of the points of the sort of the, not a thesis, but like the article that I wrote for my memoir was about the idea of having sort of like this independent commission at the UN level, or maybe even independent, and its only job is to study different accusations of genocide or alleged genocide and essentially categorize them, and to be quite strict about it, and not to say, yeah, that's a genocide. Oh yeah, be quite strict about it. Even if it's a terrible situation, but it doesn't fall within the definition, then deal with it as some other situation, but don't deal with it as genocide. So that was sort of the idea. And to narrow it, I even had like the idea of I include the idea of like a geographical limit to it, because there is no geographical limit on genocide as it stands. So it's kind of this thing like, okay, well, if you have five guys commit a few attacks around the world against a certain religious minority, like in Chicago, in Portugal, and whatever, like terrorist attacks,
Mhm.
are really considered genocides? No, come on, they're all the way around the world. This is not like trying to exterminate a population from an area, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, so I'm not going to get too much into the weeds about this stuff, but I think, a fascinating aspect about international law. It's a very old one. We talk about Rome and stuff. There's the very famous, or so-called famous, Melian dialogue, which is when the Greeks were at war with Sparta, and the Greeks were supposed to be these kind of democratic, just people, and they kind of said to all the islands, okay, we're going to war with Sparta. And one of the islands said, well, actually, we want to exercise our right of neutrality. And the Athenians famously said, right, like when it comes to justice, can only be obtained when both parties are even in strength. Otherwise, the strong do what they will, and the weak suffer what they must. And that sort of sets the entire basis for international law. And at that moment, so the Athenians, instead of letting the Melians have their neutrality, invaded the island, killed every man above the age of puberty, took all the women into slavery, kept all of the children, and essentially repopulated the island with Athenians. So maybe the first described genocide is this one, is the Melian dialogue, and it sort of sets the stage for all of international law. Like if you've got Barbados versus the US, Barbados can be like, oh, US is screwing with our trade, we're going to embargo the US, we're not going to take in any US products.
Yeah. And the US just like, okay,
okay,
bro.
yeah, what do you,
Sure,
yeah.
whatever you say, man. Just laugh.
Who tickled me? Anyway, so yeah, so it's I think it's a good indication of real politic situations in the world. Anyway, that's my spiel. Anyway, what about you, man? What if you could give a TED talk on any?
I feel like this may be the first time someone has flipped this around back at me.
Oh.
Probably something to do with like just like team building and strangers over or through the medium of World of Warcraft. Because like, even back in Cameron, that was something that I spent most of my evenings doing.
I remember, man, you used to like mine like coins and make characters and like sell them and stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, more or less.
I don't know how it works, so I'm just guessing it's something along those lines.
But like a few years back, I decided to like organize my own team rather than be a cog in someone else's. And through that, I've like established many friendships with people, mostly from America, but a few people from like Brazil and like the UK and stuff. And especially through like COVID, it's been a real blessing to just like have this like team effort to work at something that is, there's no real world impact to the things that we're doing in terms of like whether or not we succeed, but the sort of camaraderie that one might feel like growing up through high school and like the sort of shared experience is just like a fantastic way to connect with other people, and you like put aside your differences or whatever because you're all just like working towards the same goal as like a sort of microcosm of any real world effort. Yeah,
that's cool, man. It's like I don't want to say like metaphysical friendship building, but almost something like that. Like you're in this other world, right? Like World of Warcraft is this whole other universe, which I've only seen from a distance, but it seems like you can go and do a lot of stuff, right? Including meet a bunch of people and become friends with them, and you're all in this reality together. So it's I kind of envy the idea of having that kind of a space to operate in. It's again, I feel like it's the future is coming, and it's going to look something like that. So if you can help people make friends with others on these kind of platforms, and that is the future, then I would definitely say, well, go make your own job, man. Be a friend. I don't know. Make your own title. Then I would have made it up.
I'll be like I'll be like the friends version of Bumble through through gaming.
Yeah, there could be something there. Like you just go and you have your character from World of Warcraft, and you just
Yeah.
swipe left, swipe right for friendliness. Adding a
But
friend.
yeah, like because like the one thing that I noticed in like my long history of playing the game is that like, you know, for the most part, people aren't going to be the number one. Like the number one guilds have people that are dedicated enough and like have basically playing the game as their job to to allow them to be, you know, the first in the world to do this or that. So like anything below like the top 10 in the world, the game exists as a social experience. Like sure, you want to be aligned in your goals in terms of like your sort of boss killing performance, but you know, when recruiting new people, the aptitude is feels like so much more secondary than what other like what most guilds assess it, rather than just like picking people for like their fit within the culture of the guild. And like the way that I recruit people is just like through informal conversation and just like getting a vibe check essentially, about whether or not they will mesh well with the team.
That's cool, man. That's like, wow, I mean, it's straight up life skills right there.
Oh yeah. There was a time, like maybe a year or two back, where I was just like, I want to take on an HR like hiring position and just like see if I can apply that sort of methodology into recruiting people for a just like even just like an entry level job, where you know most of the things that you need to know you will learn by doing the job. Like you don't come into it with a lot of the knowledge because like you just kind of have to get trained on it no matter what. So like the whole like resumes and stuff is just like, well, most of this doesn't necessarily apply. Like you could see like certain characteristics that may lend themselves to like, okay, like they're going to do on the job, but like approaching interviewing for an office job as just a vibe check.
I feel like that's I think the problem with HR today a lot of the time is that they're already either they're like jerks, right? Like when they hire, I mean,
Mhm.
and that's usually in like big law firms or something like that. They're just they try to be a dick to you and see what you do basically. Or they're just like, we are a family and welcome to family. Are you ready to be my son? Not sure, ma'am. Give me a couple of weeks to think about it. But the problem is that in either case, they don't make you feel comfortable enough to act your, act the way that you actually are.
Like you have to put on like a facade of sorts to
Right.
like appear employable rather than just like, this is who I am, this is what I do. It's probably employable, but you have to do the dance, as it were, to
Yeah.
sort of land the job.
That's exactly it. You have to dance the dance. You have to. It's. I once went to like a job interview. I think the worst job interview that I ever went to, not because it was like it went terribly or I don't know something caught on fire or something, but just because I showed up and I sit down and I more or less knew people who knew this person that was hiring me, and she just sat there. She just didn't say a word. Just sat there and just looked at me, and
Just serving up interviewees with a good hard stare.
yeah, just sat there, just looking at me like, okay, impress me, like, give me something, right? but not even like taking a second to say hi, but hi, how are you doing? Did you find the place okay? Just like opens the door, goes, sits down, stares right at you.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, well, hello, my name is Simon. Da, 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 da. You got to do the whole little, I'm a dancing monkey, you know? Please give me some peanuts. I don't know. So I'm not a big fan, not a big
Yeah.
fan of HR. But dude, if you could bring out some kind of way to do a vibe check, as you put it, I feel like I would much rather have an interview where it's just like, all right, let's talk, let's see if we can get along, see how friendly we are with one another. We'll do the rest later. I feel like that would be a lot more interesting, and it would definitely put candidates at ease rather than this whole
Stressful experience. Yeah.
dance.
So Simon, one question that I like to ask all of my guests is, if you were to host your own version of this show where you catch up with someone from your life, I don't need to know who they are, that you haven't spoken to in a while, who would you like to have on?
Do you have to know this person as well?
No, not at all.
No? Okay. But it's more interesting if you do know them, I guess.
If it is someone I do know, it does help me think of future guests, but that's hardly an issue.
Okay. Well, seeing as I mentioned him, I think it'd be cool to talk to Sam a bit and see where he's at. Good old Whitblad. Yeah, I think that's probably the direction that I would take. I know he's in the Netherlands. I don't know. Yeah, he'd be a fun person to talk about. He's always up to some shenanigans. And always has a funny thing to say or two. He's quite a witty person, so I enjoy.
It's right there in the name, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. But and he's always been this. Well, it's Samuel Whitblad. He shows up like looks very straight edge, but then listens to Viking metal,
Yeah,
all this death metal stuff. And I don't know, it's Whitblad. So yeah, I would that would be my answer. I would say I haven't talked to him in like a little while now. Anyway, I don't exactly remember when the last time I saw him was. Last year sometime. I'm not sure. Before the summer, before lockdown, I think.
gotcha. I don't know if you will appreciate me saying this on the recording, but I'm going to do it anyways because I feel like it. I did reach out to Sam to appear on the show a little while back. He was unsure about whether or not he would have anything to contribute, but that's my job. I'm here to pull up threads like I mentioned earlier. But he said that he will not appear until he gets a haircut. So we're gonna wait for lockdown. We're gonna wait for those locks to come clean, and then hopefully we'll have Sam on sometime in the near future.
Cool. Yeah. I'd be to see what he has to say these days. I need to get a haircut myself. Last time I got a haircut, though, I went to a men's hairdresser. Never get a haircut at a men's hairdresser if you have long hair, because he literally did like this. Okay, was like I'm like this much longer on the left side as on the right side, and I just walked back in like, are you kidding me? Like, he massacred my hair, man, and I had to wait for like 2 months for it to grow back. So it has grown back, but now it's just complete. It's a mess.
Oh yeah. Many of us are overdue at this point. I don't want to turn my head to show off what's at the back, but it's not pretty right now.
Got one of those beautiful rat tails, kind of tickle the back of your neck there.
My younger cousin has a rat tail, and every time I see him, I'm just like, man, I'm so disappointed in my aunt and uncle for allowing this to happen. It doesn't look bad, but also it doesn't. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, there was that one thing where after Star Wars Episode 1 came out, where some youngsters whole Obi-Wan Kenobi haircut style, for the Padawan style, they have this one braid. But that I could understand in a certain way. It's got a certain cool sci-fi vibey to it. But the rat tail, really, the mullet, I can understand. Again, it's got this whole blue collar, drive my pickup truck and that kind of vibe to it. And that's your vibe. Go ahead, go. What is it? Business in the front, party in the
back. Yeah.
That I can understand. But again, a rat tail? Really? Is that what you want to resemble? Even as a child, you're imitating a rat. You know, the thing your mother is scared of and screams at from behind the garbage. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Kids are stupid. Probably.
Kids are stupid.
Kids are morons.
I think that's the sentiment we're gonna close out the episode on.
All right. Yeah.
Now, Simon, I'd like to give my guests a moment at the end to sort of plug or promote anything that they are either working on or believe deserves more attention. So you have the floor to plug anything.
Oh, Jesus. Something that deserves more attention. Dude, you gotta give me a couple of minutes on this one.
That's perfectly fine. I trim out the silence afterwards, so take all the time that you need.
Okay. It's a damn good question. What would I plug? No, I'm gonna plug. I'm gonna go plug France on this one, and I'm gonna say, people should come and check Europe out when this whole thing dies down. I think France needs it, and people need France. The tourism industry here is like one of the most important industries in the country, and I've even just traveling this summer, I got to meet some people who are just adorable, just doing everything they can to serve these meals, like the best meals they possibly can. And I really want these people to survive, to keep the ancestral culture going. So anybody who comes to Paris will have to, knock on my door, and we'll go for drinks and go for a nice meal. If you're from CHCI, I'm usually pretty cool with having guests over. I have a guest room here. So yeah, come to Paris when this is over. That's the general call. We should have a CHCI reunion in Europe. I'm sure there's a bunch of the CHCI crew is in Europe now, and it would give the other half the reason to go for a bit of a gander, So that's my plug.
Hell yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Simon, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending your evening with me. I know it's getting late-ish where you are.
Yeah, well, I was the only thing I needed was maybe go open another beer. So that's the rest of my plans for this evening. But it's been great talking to you again. I think this is a really cool thing to be going and doing, and it's been lovely watching a few of the old friends from high school chat about their last 10 years. 'Cause, you always think about them, they're always in the back of your mind. So it's cool to see them in front of you for once.
Indeed it is. And so listeners, wherever you are, whenever you are, thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.